Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another fourth stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So we have some relatively breaking, or certainly let's just put it, is just recently announced news within just basically the last 24 hours when this is released, which is basically the fact is that there is now officially going to be a brand new bill that is going to be announced or come out this week. This was just announced less than 24 hours ago, but the idea is essentially AOC is going to be releasing a bill into the House of Representatives sometime this week in order to try to further extend the unemployment program even longer. Now, obviously, there's a lot of mixed opinions. I know there's some people that think, this is good. Some people are gonna, they've already walked away from all this kind of stuff. But I think the big thing to notice is that it's at least happening. Now, we do have some details about what we expect inside of this bill. So in today's update, I really just want to basically cover what's going to specifically or is expected to physically be inside of this bill, all of those details. But I do also maybe want to end this by just sharing my own personal opinion about what I personally think about the bill. And because at the end of the day is that I do know is that while it is true, we try to list out what's physically happening objectively, it's hopefully important to understand is that when it comes to anything in the world of politics, there has to be a subjective side, because a huge part of it is that we're talking about something that's happening into the future, and because we don't know what actually is the future, that's why there has to be some kind of personal input into it. Otherwise, you may end up in a situation like with a lot of politics where you basically just follow the absolute that's what's happening, but then you end up finding cases where there's a lot of politicians that may not end up actually doing what they're particularly trying to do. So with that being said, we're gonna get started, but maybe real fast, as always, the same exact drill. Consider smashing the like button, at least because we are sharing something more positive today. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos and other finance topics. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about honestly just really anything. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So when it comes to the brand new bill that's going to be coming out this week, the idea is that this is pretty much going to be a bill that's going to be introduced, as mentioned, into the House of Representatives. The specific details is that they're hoping to essentially take unemployment and try to extend it again, only retroactive essentially now from September 6th, which is originally when it did end back in Labor Day, all the way now until February 1st of 2022. It is estimated that because after what had happened over Labor Day, 7, 8, 9 million people fell off of unemployment in its entirety, this is probably going to definitely impact millions of people around. But I do know, especially in New York City, and I only mention New York City because aside from the fact that AOC also happens to be in New York, so this is introduced by another New Yorker, and that I'm also in New York, and also a lot of other people are in New York, is that within New York City is that it's possibly or potentially going to impact probably about 10% of the people. And when you come from a city that's probably one of the largest cities, if not possibly, I think maybe it is the largest city in the entire country, this is going to potentially help out probably about 8 to 900,000 people across the city. So this really gives you a picture of the scale. For perspective is that there are many cities that have just specifically 8 to 9, actually there's cities that have even less than 8 to 900,000, and we're talking about pretty major cities as well in the US. So they're hoping that if this is able to go through, maybe this can potentially be some kind of life changer. Now, the specific programs that she's hoping to extend is essentially, according to her so far, is that she's hoping to extend all of the programs that relate to so this would essentially include both the PEUC and the PUA. So I know a lot of people were on both programs. It is not fully specified because the bill hasn't come out yet, but she did mention a lot of programs, so it's believed that she probably will also try to extend the FPUC, which is pretty much the federal boost. It's not confirmed what the amount will be. It's actually not even confirmed if there's going to be this particular boost inside, but it's assumed based off of what she said. And if everything stays the same, then it's probably going to be $300. Of course, we probably have to wait for the actual physical bill to come out before we can actually physically announce it, but that's at least basically the entire outline and details. And again, it is retroactive, so they would essentially just pick up from when we physically ended and then essentially just have it continue on until February 1st of 2022. So that's pretty much the details about this bill. Now, when it comes to the much more personal insight, so it's not like you're just watching, a whole bunch of videos that talk about the same exact bill, because I think this is the part that makes each of these videos hopefully a little bit more unique. I think that my personal opinion about this bill is that I do actually think that this bill may struggle relatively hard when it comes to trying to get approved within Congress. And a huge reason because of this, and I think AOC even expresses that she feels similar, that it's probably going to have difficulties going through, really because the fact is that right now we are already kind of struggling to try to approve the fourth stimulus package slash infrastructure bill. And this is essentially the package that's supposed to have all of those programs like the child tax credit. So it is going to be relatively difficult if they're already struggling with that, for them to try to insert unemployment at the very, very last minute. Now, however, I will say maybe something that can maybe on the more positive, best case scenario, hopeful side is that I do actually still believe that this is actually really, really great news relatively. Because the fact that they're even at least trying to take action, it means that there's at least a chance. And I think even more specifically is that even if this actually does end up struggling in order to try to gain through the entire full approval, so as most of us know is essentially through the House and the Senate and the President, it is very possible that if they're able to at least push for it, maybe even if it doesn't end up actually going through this particular way, they can maybe try to use this to essentially press or to convince other politicians who actually do have power to maybe at least do something. Even if it's not until February 2022, maybe at the very least it's just to have something that's longer, well at this point the fact that it's ended Labor Day, something more to come. Maybe I think that's the best way to really put it out there. It is very, very possible, for example, that even if this doesn't necessarily go through, maybe, and again these are just ideas that to put out there, it is very possible that maybe this can potentially try to persuade Biden to maybe end up signing an executive order like basically what Trump did last year in order to do unemployment again. It is very possible that maybe this actually ends up pushing states to try to come out with their own particular bill or their own particular decisions in order to try to extend unemployment there, even if it's on an individual level. We did talk about certain actions that are happening now. For example, I do know in yesterday's video, which once again I'll put at the very, very end screen, we talked a little bit about certain lawsuits or things that are currently happening to potentially try to change course, including certain things about trying to essentially just bring more unemployment. So not just to get back paid on unemployment, but to actually bring even more unemployment out there. But the idea really to really share is that it's at least there's someone sticking out and trying to voice for us, especially again going back, is I think it's fair to say during a time when there are still a lot of people that have relative need for a lot of the things that are happening. But essentially beyond this that's what I really just wanted to share in today's update.